Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inflectra's test automation series called Let's Test MS Dynamics Through the UI, where we will be exploring how to start testing MS Dynamics product you have. You will learn how to bootstrap a testing framework and perform essential test automation tasks. Presenters will teach you how to organize teamwork and create tests that are easy to enhance and maintain. You are joining us for our first webinar in this series, and today's topic is how to test MS Dynamics Nav through the UI like a pro. Today's webinar will be presented by Denis Markovtsev, a principal software developer at Inflectra Corporation. He's one of the creators of Rapise test automation platform. He holds a master's degree in computer science and a Ph.D. in mathematics, and has been working in the IT industry for the past 20 years in such areas as compilers, development environments, software verification, and testing. My name is Teresa, and I will be your moderator today. Before I turn it over to Denis, let's cover a few housekeeping issues. First, today's webinar will last for about an hour and will consist of both theoretical and practical parts and end with a Q&A session. We ask that you save your questions until that time and use the built-in questions tab to send questions. These will then be read out and answered. Second, today's webinar will also be recorded. In a couple of days, we'll make the webinar recording available on Inflectra's YouTube channel under the playlist called Testing MS Dynamics. Links to each webinar recording will be emailed to you a few days after the live webinar. Or you can subscribe to Inflectra's YouTube channel to get notified when new recordings become available. To give you a little bit more information about the webinar series as a whole, Testing MS Dynamics Nav is part of a 5-part series focusing on testing Microsoft Dynamics family of products with Rapise. Our presenters will teach you how to organize teamwork and create tests that are easy to enhance and maintain. You may also note this series is running in parallel with our webinar series titled UI Automation 101. We suggest that UI series is an excellent companion to this MS Dynamics series. For those of you not familiar with our test automation webinars, we recommend you check out our 2 previous series, Test Automation Demystified and Planet Test Automation First Steps, both of which are available on our YouTube channel. Last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, each webinar in the series has a practical part. We will demonstrate the key practical test automation concepts using Inflectra's own platform, Rapise. If you haven't downloaded the tool yet, please visit www.inflectra.com/Rapise. Feel free to use Inflectra's 30-day free trial. And with the housekeeping out of the way, I'll turn it over to our presenter, Denis.
Thank you for the introduction, Teresa. So it was very helpful and informative. And so we are ready to start our webinar. We are here to learn about how to test Dynamics Nav with Rapise. And let's quickly go through the agenda for this webinar. So first thing is we'll be talking about testing Dynamics Nav 2017 and 2018 role-tailored client. And this is the versions of Dynamics for which we created and tested the framework that you will be able to download from GitHub and use in your project. This framework will probably work for earlier versions of Nav as well, but we didn't test it yet for those versions. If you will try for earlier version of Nav, our framework, and it will not work, just let us know and we will work with you to make it working. It shouldn't be relatively easy. So first, today we'll talk about what we mean when we say that we are testing Microsoft Dynamics Nav. And then I will show you the framework that we created for testing Dynamics Nav. I will talk about architecture of this framework, and I will show you a demo. So we will create a new test and we'll add it to the framework. And also we will schedule and execute it using Spira test. So ready to begin. So what we mean when we talk that we're testing Dynamics Nav. So I will talk a bit about philosophy of testing Dynamics Nav. So first idea that I am trying to express is when we are testing Dynamics Nav, we are not testing Microsoft product itself. So we are sure that Microsoft did a very good job testing the product, that base features of this product are really working. So we are all who are testing Dynamics Nav are making changes to configuration. We add some add-ons, we do customizations with this product. And this is what we really want to test. And the idea for this testing is we do not need necessarily repeat the steps that real user will perform while working with Dynamics. If there are some things that can be done faster and there are shortcuts with testing, so for example, you may navigate to a specific page using some shortcuts instead of clicking on many links on the screen, then let's use it. And there is no need to test some default things. We need just test things that we customized or changed in the default setup of Dynamics Nav. So where you can get this framework that I will be talking about. So it is on GitHub. So here is the link displayed on the screen. We have Inflectra space in GitHub, and it has a bunch of repositories that you may use with Rapise. And one of them is Rapise Dynamics Nav, and this is the framework that I will be talking about right now. So let's first look a bit at the architecture of the framework. So for those of you who are familiar with Rapise, it should be it should look familiar. And for those who are not, I will explain in more details. So first, this framework consists of one parent test. It's framework SS test. It's a root of this area highlighted to the left. And this root test defines a repository in Spira test. So we will be using Spira test for test case management and for execution. This framework SS test contains all the test cases of our framework. So, and these test cases are also Rapise tests, and their names are started with a TC prefix. There is a user.js file with common functions, and it is shared between all the tests in the test framework. There is a global object repository that contains some objects that are used by common functions. And also every test case has its own local object repository and own test steps implemented in RVL. And every test case in this framework, for example, TC test 1, is linked to a test case in Spira. And the root test is also linked to a test case in Spira. So this is just a brief overview, so don't be scared. And if you don't get some of the features displayed on the screen, we will go through creation of a new test right now. So we will add a new test to this framework. I will show you again in more details. So, and these are the 7 steps that we will perform. So we will clone an existing test, actually a template test. We will do some initial navigation steps. We will add those steps manually. It is relatively easy. And then we will record our scenario. We will ensure it works. On step 5, we will make this test data-driven, so we will parameterize and we'll use data from Excel spreadsheet. And then we will save everything to Spira test, and we will create a test set, and we will execute this test set using Rapise launcher. So we are ready to begin. So let's first open Rapise. So this is Rapise, and the root test of the framework is called NAV Framework. It is opened in Rapise right now. And here you can see the test cases already added to this test framework. Here is the user.js file. So this is a file that contains shared functions that are accessible from every test case that we will be creating. So we have a function nav launch, and it is accessible from every test case. So I will show how to do this. Also, we have an object repository here with some global objects already added to it. And all those objects have a prefix, G underscore. So very likely you won't be using those objects directly. They are used by the functions from user.js file. Also, in the root test, we have data files that contain data for all our test cases. Actually, for each test case that we have here, for example, create new customer, create new purchase order, we have a separate sheet in this data Excel file, and this sheet has a name corresponding to a test case. And here we have all the data. So the test case itself does not contain any specific data values. Also, there is drop-downs Excel file. This is a feature that we added in 6.3. So here you may specify some values that RVL will prompt you when you will be adding a specific function. So I will show this drop-down feature while we will be adding a new test. And also there is output Excel. So this is a file that is created automatically, and this is where we may write and read some values that are persistent between test runs. So if you create some record and you want to remember its ID to be used for other test cases, or maybe to be used by the same test case on the next run, then you may put write to this output file. And I will show how to do this as well. So, okay, this is the root test, and we have some test cases already implemented. So, and we can open any of those test cases in a separate copy of Rapise. So let me open create new customer. Here is a new copy of Rapise. This test case has reference to all their Excel files. So they are not copies. These are just references to data, drop-downs, and output. And if we will open user, it will show us this shared user file with common functions. But this test case has its own RVL spreadsheet with implemented test steps. So let's create our own test case. So let me close this copy of Rapise. Closed everything. Let me open the root of framework, NAV Framework. So to create a new test case, I will clone a test case template. We have TC template subtest, and it already has all the necessary files included, so it is configured and ready for recording of a test scenario. So I will clone it. So I'm right-clicking it and choose clone. And I need to provide the name for a clone. And what I'll be doing, I will implement a test case that will create employees in the system. So the name will be create employees. Clicking OK. And you can see that this test case is added to the tree. So I will save the root test and I will open the test we just created. Create employees. So let's open its steps. And those steps, there are some steps here already. So let's look at them. So first 3 steps here is initial navigation within Dynamics. So on the line 15, we are launching Dynamics Nav. On the line 16, we are selecting the company. And here you can see that this line is already parameterized and it is reading company from data spreadsheet. So let's look at our data spreadsheet. So I'm opening the data spreadsheet. I already have data prepared for this create employees scenario. And it has company column, and this is the column from which we will read the company name. So we launch Dynamics, we select the company with which we want to work, and then we need to perform navigation using address bar, and we want to go here to the place where we can create new employees. This is where drop-downs Excel file works with the list of some values. So it has some predefined values here. If you don't find what you need here, you may add it manually. So let's figure out what to enter here to go to create employees page in Dynamics Nav. The good feature of RVL is that I can execute any steps right from RVL. So I'm selecting the steps I want to execute, right-clicking, place selection, and Rapise will open Dynamics for me. Should open for me. Okay, I know what the problem is. So the error message said that we we're not able to read data from template sheet from our data file. And this is correct. So because the sheet name is create employees. So let's fix it. Okay, and I don't need debugger. Place selection. So Rapise checks if Dynamics is running. If it is running, we are okay. If it is not running, it will be launched by Rapise and maximized, and the company is selected. Okay, where are our employees and how to reach this page? So as far as I remember, it's inside department, human resources, employees. So, and now we see the list of employees. And to navigate here quickly, we need to get the value from the address bar. We don't need a company name. So we're just selecting the part, actual part here. And I'm going to Rapise. Here it is, go into RVL and pasting this path here. Expanding, saving. So let's navigate somewhere else and we'll test that this navigation works. So I can execute just this step. Place selection. Okay, so now we are ready to do recording for our test scenario. The test scenario will be we will create some employees in the system. So I am ready to do recording. And I will insert my steps here. Start recording. Rapise is in the recording mode. And I can interact with the application now. So clicking on new button. And now I will enter some values. So let's specify the first name. Clicking on the last name. And we need the search name. What else we need? And also I want to enter extension, phone, and birthday. And this is something that are hidden in some of the fast steps that we have below. So let's go to communication and add the extension. And let's now go to it's personal. And I will add the birth date here. It will be something like this. Okay, hitting OK. And our employee is in the system. So now I may click finish and add my recorded steps to RVL. Insert my steps here. Okay, let's hide this. So this is our scenario that adds a new employee, and we can check that we can successfully replay these steps. To do this, I will also record some steps that do cleanup and delete the data that we create in this test scenario. In my RVL, I have additional sheet already created, so it was created in the template, which is called cleanup. And here I will record steps that will delete the records created by the main test scenario. So I start recording again. I will click on the search name in the grid, and I will click delete, and yes. Okay. And I will append my steps here. So it will be a sheet that I will use for cleaning the data in the system. Now I am ready to check my steps. So I will select the steps, right click and play selection. So we need to make sure that the steps we added are working. So they are not working, so something is not okay. And I will show what is not okay. So first, let's ask Rapise to do the cleanup. I may play this sheet, and Rapise will delete the record automatically. Okay. What we need to fix in our test is how Rapise works with fast steps. What we recorded here is not reliable, so we are clicking on expand button, but the fast step was already expanded. We clicked and it was collapsed, so it's not what we really need. So here we may use one of built-in functions of the framework. So let me add a couple of lines here, and I will delete this expanding, and I will use function which is called NAV select fast step. So here we have the list of all available functions. By the way, if you don't know what a specific function does, on the GitHub repository, on the main page of the repository. If you will scroll down, you will get names of all the functions and descriptions of what those functions are doing. Okay, what first step we need to select when we work with extension? So it was communications, I guess, communication. So here I need to enter the name of first step. I need to make sure. So what this function does, it makes sure that this first step is expanded and the view is scrolled to this first step, and all the controls of it are actually on screen and ready for interaction. Okay, and another first step that we need to expand is here. So we can use NAV select first step, and the tab name is what? Is personal. So closing it, personal. So I think that now it should work. So let's check first. Play selection. So before doing parameterization, I want to make sure that all steps are correct and work. Yeah, so it works. And it looks like I forgot to record entering the job title. So it's not a problem. I may do additional recording. So the job title is somewhere after specifying first and last name. Let's prepare some steps for entering the job title, and let's do recording. So I will execute the first steps to reach the place where I want to continue my recording. All right, so now I'm ready to record entering job title. Start recording. By default, Rapise activates the main window of NAV. If it is not what you want, you may pause recording, switch to the window that you need, resume recording. Now I'm clicking on job title and enter the value. Finish. And I will insert the step here. Okay, so now I have correct script. Let's do some cleanup. This time I will do it manually. Here it is. The next step is to do parameterization. So how to do this? So here we have entering the first name, last name, job title, search name, extension, and birthday. So first we need to specify that we have those columns. So I am adding some lines to the map that I have at the beginning of my RVL spreadsheet, and give the names of the fields. Last name, job title, and search name, and extension, and birthday. And those column names actually correspond to column names that I have in my Excel spreadsheet. So potentially this Excel spreadsheet may be prepared not by a QA person, by some domain expert, or person who are not involved in development of test cases. So it allows to split the work in the team, so between different people. So we have columns here in Excel spreadsheet, and we have columns in our RVL, and I'm ready to do parameterization. So here to change to do parameterization, I need to choose my map. So the name of my map or of my table with data is data. So, and I'm using it here as a type for my parameter. And here I will select the first name, data, last name, data, job title, data, search name. So take some time, extension, data, birthday. Okay, so it is parameterized. If I will execute it right now, it will use the first line from my Excel spreadsheet here and will enter the values. So let's check that it works. Selecting the steps, place selection. So it enters the correct values from the spreadsheet. Very good. So let's delete it. In my test case, I want to enter more than one employee. So this is why in data Excel file, I have a couple of lines. I may have more, but 2 is many and 1 is just 1. So how to enter more employees using RVL? So I just need to wrap selected steps into a loop. It should be here, wrap selection into loop. And this loop will be a loop through the map. And the name of my map is data. Okay, so if I will now execute my test, it should enter 2 values, 2 employees. Place selection. So once it is working, we will proceed to integration with Spira. So we will put all our tests into Spira and we'll schedule execution, so unattended execution. Okay, so we have 2 employees created, John Smith and Sarah Parker. And let's also improve our cleanup sheet, and we'll add loop here as well. So we want to get employees from the same table. So I will add some lines here, and I will copy binding to data from here, from the first spreadsheet. Okay, so and now I also can parameterize it, and here use search name to select the employee from the grid. Then wrapping into loop, map data, and we have a sheet that should delete all the employees that we just created. Deleting the lines, and let's run it. Okay, so and we did not run our test from scratch. So let's close Dynamics and let's run the whole test. Also notice that from the template I have 2 steps in the end. One step is calling this cleanup sheet, and the last one closes Dynamics Nav. If you don't need those steps, you can easily delete them. So executing my test, and it should add data and then delete data. So if I'm too fast and you have some questions, so you feel free to write them into questions tab. and we will answer them at the end of this session. So execution by Rapise is pretty fast. It's faster than adding something by hand. So you may use Rapise not only for testing, but maybe for automating some tasks within your organization with Dynamics Nav. Okay, so everything works and we are ready to put our tests into Spira. So let me open Spira. In Spira, I have a product which is called Dynamics Nav, and it has some test cases. One test case, NAV Framework, will be used to put all our test framework into Spira, and other test cases will be used to link test cases implemented in Rapise to Spira. So let's do this. So first I need to create a repository in Spira and put all my files into it. So I will open my root of my framework and I will choose Save to Spira. I need to select Dynamics Nav and select this test case and choose Save. Oh, I know. I already did this today and forgot to clean up link files. Hold on for a second. Let's do save again. Save to Spira. Okay, so Rapise prompts to create a repository. Click in Create. Rapise automatically selects what files to add to Spira. And I will hit OK here. Okay. Hitting OK again. And let's return to Spira. And the files of the test framework are stored inside Documents module. If we go to Documents, expand the root folder, and this is our NAV framework. And you can see that all files are already here in Spira. So when we will schedule execution of this framework on some other machine in your environment, Rapise Launcher will download all these files there and will do execution. All right, so let's return to test cases. And now in Rapise, I am ready to link test case implementations to test cases in Spira. So I'm going to the test case I just created, create employees, opening it, and choose Save to Spira. So here I need to select my test case. Oh, I don't have the test case for create employees. So let's go to Spira and create a new one. So hit a new test case, create employees, save. Here in Rapise, I may hit refresh button. And this is my test case, selecting it and choose Save Synchronize. So I have a repository, and in this repository, I have all the files from my test framework, not only from this specific test case. So all the files of my test are already in Spira, so actually nothing new to save. Okay, and let's add one more test case. one that was implemented before. It is create new customer. So we will execute 2 test cases. And here I will choose save to Spira again, and we'll choose create new customer. In the framework, we have more test cases implemented, creating new purchase order and creating new sales order. To save time, I will not be adding it to Spira right now. So save, synchronize. Okay. Okay. So everything is in Spira. I may now close Rapise. And I'm ready to create a test set and execute my test cases. So I'm going to test sets, and I will create a new test set. So since we are creating the customer and the employees, let's name this test set create records. Save. Okay, go in here. Alexei, we can hear you. Create records, and here in the test set, I need to add my test cases that I want to execute as a part of this test set. So I'm scrolling to test cases section, hitting add. Here are my test cases. I want to run create employees and create new customer. Okay. And the last thing to do is to schedule where I want to execute and when I want to execute this test set. In Spira, you may define automation hosts where Rapise launcher is running. And here I have one, Rapise demo. Let's save my test set. And to view the list of automation hosts, you may click automation hosts on the toolbar. And here is my automation host. The name of it is Rapise demo, and the token is NAV VM. On this machine that I'm presenting right now, I have Rapise launcher running. It is configured and connected to this instance of Spira, and its token is NAV VM. So this is where I want to execute my tests. So click and close. The last thing to do is to specify when I want to execute. You may execute at specific time, or you may execute on some regular basis. I will specify planned date here. I will use yesterday to make this test set overdue and mark it for immediate execution. So hitting save. Minimizing browser. This is Rapise launcher. It is connected to Spira and checking for new jobs. Okay, and now it sees that it needs to execute the test set. So now we should see our 2 test cases executing. So the first one will be create employees, I guess. No, it will be create new customers. Okay, we are okay with that. So it creates a customer, then edits this customer, enters some information. All information is from Excel spreadsheet. And customer is deleted. And Dynamics is closed. And now execution of the second test case is performed. Should be create employees. Okay, and when this execution is completed, I will also show the playback of two other test cases that we implemented that create purchase order and create sales order. Okay, execution is completed, and in Spira, if we go to test runs, we see the reports for execution. So we can click on the report and we will see all the steps that we executed and its status. And we also have a log file of execution. If anything goes wrong, then we will see some red lines here. Also, we may enable taking screenshots, and we will see the screenshots here. Okay, let's see what other test cases we have in the demo framework and what they can do and what other functions we have in the framework that you may use. So let me open a new purchase order. Let's open its RVL. This one is a bit more complex. It contains several sheets and functionality is split between different sheets. The first sheet, RVL, is just starting creation of a purchase order. The second sheet is iterating through items and adding items to the order. And the last one is performs posting. So let's run it and see how it works. Selecting company. New order is started. Okay, and now Rapise is entering data into the table of items. So Rapise may enter simple values and may do lookups using grids. Okay, so purchase order has been created and posted. And the last one to show is create sales order. It's more interesting because as far as I remember, it is using some file attachments. So let me simply play it. So if you need to see how to do some specific things with Dynamics and Rapise, you may find a lot of information in this framework and implemented test cases. So if you want to find out how to do filtering in the table, it is there. How to select the fast step, how to enter data into tables. How to launch Dynamics, how to close Dynamics, maximize windows. So the sales order creates some documents. And Rapise, okay. There is, as I remember, sophisticated cleanup procedure here that to delete the order, it needs to delete some linked documents. So I'm clicking. Okay, cleanup expects that Dynamics Nav is running. And the ID here is taken from output Excel file. This is where we put the value using set output value function. And it's not possible to delete something without printing it to a file. And Rapise can do this. So there is a common function that is able to do printing of a document to a specific location on disk. So if you're interested how it works, so there is a function which is called NAV print PDF, and you specify some information here, the base name for the file, some number, and the file name is constructed automatically, and Rapise performs the printing. And the files are located, if we reveal in Explorer our test coverage, there is output files folder, and this is where those printed documents are stored. Okay, so it looks like I showed pretty much everything. More details can be found in the GitHub repository. If you have any questions, you can ask them right now. And if you will have questions later, then feel free to write to rapise@inflectra.com and ask your questions. So thank you for attention. Alexei, do we have any questions?
Yes, we have 2 questions at this moment. And first question is from Daria. Is it possible to click on the Show More Fields button, for example, on General Fast tab of purchase order, or we need to write the separate function for that?
Show more fields. Okay, I know what you're talking about. There is no such ready function. Probably we can add it. So if we go to customers and we open, okay, create a new customer. So I guess this is show more fields, this one, right? You may record this step. There is no any problem with this. So you may learn this panel, and then you may do right click, and then you may select the fields. Fields are shown automatically. What is available out of the box added recently to this framework is ability to select columns for the grid. So for example, we have a list of customers and we want to choose columns, and for example, column blocked is not visible. So we can do this easily with a simple comment. So here I will use functions and nav add columns. Here I need to use ID of the grid. So this grid is not an object repository, so I can edit. So let's learn this grid. Control 2. Let's change name for it. Customer grid. Finish. Okay, and here we should have this customer grid, and I want to add blocked column here. So let's execute this part. So this is what Rapise can do automatically. So we can implement this functionality for show more field as a function as well. So probably it is worth doing it because it is kind of common functionality that may be needed by any test. Until it's not implemented, it can be recorded. So how to do this? You may start recording. Let's switch to the window that we need. We can learn the whole general first step, and it's okay. And I can right click it and choose show fewer fields. Finish. Append to end. So this is the click that we have, and we just need a right click here. So it was general, and we have do a right click action, and we can do this in the middle, I guess. So these two steps should right click and choose the item. The text is different. It's now show more fields. Okay. So the test should fail at this point, so I can stop it. So if I will execute it right now, it should work. Yeah. So this is how you can do this right now. I think that we will add this function this week, so you will be able to use it anywhere you like. So I hope I answered the question. Alexei, what other questions we have?
Well, we have at least one more question from Hamid. The question about the status of the requirement after executing Rapise automation with test cases.
Looks like it's more about Spira, I guess.
Yeah, so looks like we may try to address this by email because it goes towards Spira. And
so actually, yeah, so brief answer is you may link a test case to a requirement. So if we open a test case and it has associations, so here you may add an association to a requirement, and thus you may trace how your requirements are tested. And yes, I think that with more details we can answer you by email with exact instructions how to do this.
So Amit, we will contact you and we will try to provide necessary links after the session. So we have no more questions. So no more questions.
Okay, so we are very precise, so finishing exactly as promised. So I'm passing the word to Teresa for some final words.
Thank you, Denis. We appreciate today's presentation, and thanks to Alexei for assisting us with the questions.
Thank you, Teresa, and thanks everyone for attending.
And thanks for watching.